Good morning, my friends. I am on a property today. We are working on a driveway. And one thing I thought might be kind of fun is to show you the installation of a large scale tree. Now, large scale trees are what I like to refer to as the jewelry. This is your luxury item. These are your high ticket items. And there's several things that I think about when I'm selecting a tree, from scale to the health of the tree, to even like how it's situated on a property. So I'm going to take you along as we prep for these trees to arrive tomorrow. And we are starting our day bright and early with a blower truck. And I am having 20 yards. I probably could have done 30, but I'm having 20 yards of compost blown into this driveway area. And we're going to plant some trees. I want to show you this process because I think it is absolutely wildly fascinating. This is a blower truck. And essentially what they're doing is they're going all the way down the property, blowing compost along the edge. And essentially all of the compost is contained in this truck. What is really unique about the shape of this truck is if you look at it from the back, it kind of has like a little V coming down. And so what they do is they load all of the compost or the mulch or whatever you're ordering, they load it in the top. And then what happens is there's like a little conveyor belt at the bottom and rollers. And what it does is it basically delivers all of the compost down to the very back end of this truck, where then it's fed into the giant, gosh, what do we call them? Hoses, and out into the garden. And so what's amazing, so they've come on site, we've done a walkthrough, I've shown them where I want the mulch blown, and then I just kind of stand back. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I wish I was more involved. It'd be really fun to spray it, but I don't think they're gonna let me.
He's climbing up right now to take a look inside to see how much is left. It lets me know how much more I can spread and where I should dump the final piles.
It is the next day, and we are back, and I'm preparing for a company called Big Trees to come and do their installation. And so the reason I wanted to show this to you is because it's really interesting to work with a specialty large tree retailer. Now, I have actually contracted them out to do both the providing the trees as well as planting them. And one of the biggest reasons is that when you're handling a large specimen tree, it is really important that you have a crew that knows what they're doing. Okay, I think I actually hear a truck. I'm going to take you down there. Okay, friends, here we are. This is Big Trees. They literally only specialize in big trees. And they just freshly dug these out of Snohomish. These are the Katsuras that are going in. These are just massive, massive, massive. They called them a 4-inch caliper, which refers to the dimension of the tree. Those look bigger than 4 inches. But check this out. This is really what you want to see. Okay, so this is what they call ball and burlap. And do you see how fresh this burlap is and fresh the rope is? This is what you want to see. The other thing is a lot of times when you are ordering trees, you'll have, weeds popping out of here. That is what you don't want to see. That's a tree that's been sitting at the nursery way too long. This is just about as prime perfection as you are going to see. So as you can see, like fresh, beautiful, they wrap them up. They specialize in getting really even, beautiful canopies. So what'll happen is we're going to use this big old dude here. It's got forks on the front, and they essentially lift up the root ball. Take your on front here. They get these heavy duty forks underneath the root ball, and then they will lower that once they dug the hole, they will lower it into place and they'll unfurl the canopy. And what I always say is trees have faces, right? Every plant has a face, and you want that face looking right at you. So they will unfurl these, which, oh my God, it's going to be like magic. And we will get to choose which way the face looks. So we will choose which direction that they will be pointing towards the driveway, which for me, I'm going for impact, I'm going for max beauty, I'm going for a transformational moment so that when these homeowners arrive home from a super, super busy day, they feel transported to the place that they call home, which is, God, this is why we do it, man. Okay, so I know some of you are going to have questions for me. I did spray in compost the other day, and I was just talking to the crew who is doing the installation just to verify what they indeed do. And so when they dig the hole, they actually dig directly into native soil because this is what we want the tree to acclimate to. This soil is fabulous. This is like everything a landscaper or a gardener dreams of. It's humusy and rich, and you can just smell the moisture in it. It's like so fabulous. And so, what they're going to do is they're going to plant these trees. And instead of putting any sort of like time release or anything down into the hole that would be gone before the root system really takes off, they actually top dress it with fertimulch. So it's a mulch top dressing that has a lot of fertilizer in it. So therefore, it kind of like rains down when the rain comes down and absorbs into the surrounding area. And then if it does need an additional fertilizer in, say, the spring, they'll actually put like fertilizer spikes at more kind of out where that, not at the drip line, because it's going to take a while for the roots to get out to the drip line. And the drip line is the perimeter of the tree's canopy. I feel like I need to do like, I don't know, like a vocabulary lesson with Kate. Anyways, so oftentimes what they'll do is during this growing phase, they can actually put in a fertilizer spike around the perimeter of the roots where they are just starting to take off. So anyways, I'm very impressed. These guys are pros. They are pros. And what they've done is those forks are really great for not only lifting the trees, however, when they scrunch them all together, they use it as a digging mechanism. And I love watching people who are really good at their craft because you just get these really interesting tips. All right, my friends, there she is. This is one of the Katsuras that were planted today. And I want to take you in close and kind of just talk about a couple of different things when you're investing in a tree like this. First and foremost, we have fertile mulch. This should be replaced, refreshed, I would say every 6 months, specifically during the first 2 years of this tree's life cycle. Okay, second, we have stakes driven into the ground with cable, kind of like a cable style tie on them. These need to remain in place for 2 growing seasons because a tree does take a lot more time to get established. Now, next thing, these are freshly dug. And we are in the dormant period, which is really like the perfect time for you to be planting your trees. So if you're investing in a tree, right now is just like primo time to do so. What I will tell you is that I will be monitoring these trees very closely over the next 1 year plus. Okay. So, this first year, what I'm looking for is I'm going to be monitoring these trees as they are leafing out. So, as those leaves are emerging, because that will give me a really good indicator of how well this tree is getting established. Now, what's really cool about big trees is they do offer a warranty on their trees. And when you're investing in a really expensive tree like this, that warranty is worth its weight in gold. Here's what I will say. If at any point I notice browning or leaves are not emerging on schedule, say we've got a couple of branches that have died off, or one of them simply doesn't have any leaves emerging, that is a signal that I need to reach out to my supplier and tap that warranty, or at least have them come out and visit. The other thing, you want your trees, again, we talked about that 2-year establishment period. We're not talking like November, 2 years to November, but really, I would play it safe and I would go 2 growing cycles. So, really, my growing cycle is going to start about in March and it needs to be hooked up to a drip irrigation that entire time. And when you water trees, you're not going for like a light sprinkle. You want deep, deep watering. And so that's where, like, when people use tree bags that have those little tiny puncture holes in the bottom, it's basically you're filling this giant cavity up and it's very slowly leaching into the soil. It's later in the week, and I wanted to circle back to talk about a couple of things really quickly with regard to the decisions that went into this tree from a design perspective. So, this driveway is very long. And there are, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of trees existing along this driveway. The problem comes, they're all 5 different types of trees, and so there was no unifying element. So bringing these Katsura trees right along down this driveway helped unify the space. The other decision that went into the selection of this tree was actually the leaf shape. Now, we have a beautiful array of evergreens around us, but what we were missing is the softness of a leaf shape. And this one has this like cute little heart-shaped leaf. It was just perfection. The last thing is, when you are designing, you want to take a look at what is your property calling for. Is it calling for a proper canopy? So you can have a canopy that is expansive, maybe a little bit more round. You can have a columnar tree, which is a very different impact. You can have that traditional triangle Christmas tree shape that a lot of evergreens carry with them. But what you want to do is you want to take a look at the property and then see what's missing or what you want to reinforce. So for this driveway, we had so many of those triangular trees, but the direction I wanted to head in was a little bit more diversity of shape. And so I went for a tree that has a canopy. Last but not least, when you are designing with trees, something that I tell people all the time is trees need shoes. And here's why. I'm going to show you my tree down there that does not have any shoes. And it looks like it's just hanging out by itself. It looks lonely. Versus right down here, I have added in a sweep of Taxus densiformis, and this will eventually have this beautiful arch that will create some really beautiful, strong structure. And there are 2 things about it. First of all, our tree now has some shoes, some very lovely shoes, but also this is an evergreen element. And so what you're going to notice I've done is I have paired a deciduous tree with some shoes, with some shoes that are evergreen. And so when you are looking through pairings like this, having a deciduous element with an evergreen element is just the way to go. This is how you ensure that you have really strong, beautiful structure all throughout these winters, especially if you live in a landscape that goes very dormant. The last thing I want to draw your eye to is the fact that we have evergreen up top, and then we are bringing our evergreen down below. And because I am using a Taxus densiformis, I am mimicking that needle texture. And so the eye is not only coming in and out in a wave down this driveway, adding a lot of movement, a lot of interest, but we are bringing our evergreen structure from top to bottom, back to top again. So here we are at another one of the Katsuras that I've planted along this driveway. And what you're going to notice is we don't have shoes here. And when you look at this, there's nothing that is tying this canopy down to the landscape. So as you can see, we have nothing kind of grounding and anchoring this tree down to the landscape. When you add shoes to your trees, that is the moment where it feels like, okay, now our tree has some friends, and now it feels solidly anchored in this ground. Last thing I'm going to talk to you about is we have discussed the face of a plant, the face of a tree, and it is so, so, so important. What I have done is my homeowners, they entered their driveway in this direction, okay? So when I think about how I'm placing a tree, I want kind of my best first impression to be this side. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for evenness of the canopy. I'm looking for a strong conical shape. If I have, say, an evergreen, I'm looking for a strong leader. So remember I was talking about that triangle shape? Your leader is the singular kind of like center trunk that extends all the way up. I want that to be really straight as well. The reason I position it like this is because on the back side, it gets a little bit more flat. We don't have as even of branching structures. And I know that I want this beautiful, strong first impression when my homeowner comes down this driveway. All right, friends, we have talked about a little bit about tree selection, some little bits of design framework, but the last thing I want to talk to you about is kind of the meat and potatoes of what you need to do before this tree actually comes on site. So the very first thing you are going to do well in advance of any tree planting and any earth moving is you are going to call in, you call in a locate. In our area, it's 811. What you're going to do in advance of any earth moving, any digging, is you're going to call in to your local municipality and have them flag your utility locations. So this could be water lines, sewer, gas lines. We could have electrical, any number of things, Comcast, cable utilities. And what all of those utility services will do is they will come out. You typically need to give them about a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And so this is why advance notice is super important. They'll come to your job site and they will run a location and they'll kind of basically search underground and then they will mark with spray where all of your utilities are running. With location services, you can have the best locator in the world, but there still is going to be a little bit of a margin of error. So use them as guideposts as opposed to something that is like set in stone. They're not going to tell you exactly how deep it is, but they are going to give you a very good approximation of exactly where those lines are running so that you can be very careful when digging around them. And I typically recommend on this job site, I will tell you, I called it in once 2 weeks before we started digging. So removing any sort of like shrubs that were in the way of this tree's planting. There was like some small roadies. And then I also called it in again a week before these trees arrived because I wanted fresh markings on the ground. So it was abundantly clear to my tree planting crew as well as any other crews that were on site exactly where all of those utilities were. I'm going to get back to work because I have one last tree that needs some shoes. I'm going to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, as always, please say hello to your garden for me.